Stapitam yena bhutale swayam rupa kadamayam tadati sampadantikam. Nama om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastyachadishatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
You're all students? No? And tell me a little bit about yourself. Are you chanting at all?
Yes.
How many rounds?
16.
16 rounds, okay. What's your name?
Anil.
Anil. Are you a student?
No problem. I'm okay.
You're working? Where? Google. Ah. AI?
No. I'm wireless engineer.
What?
Wi-Fi engineer. Network engineer.
Wi-Fi. Okay, great. And you?
And my name is Sambhi, and I've been coming to Mantra Room for the last 6 months, and I work here as a software developer at a network security startup.
To where?
It's a startup called Aryaka Networks.
Are you chanting?
I recently started, I'm at least doing 1 round, but I'm slowly progressing.
After tonight, you should increase to 4 rounds.
Sure.
And you can be in touch with Ram about
Yeah.
it. Ram,
Sure, Prabhu.
make sure he starts chanting 4 rounds a day.
Sure, Prabhu.
Ram, you and I are old friends.
Yes, Prabhu.
16 rounds, right?
Yes, Prabhu.
You?
I'm Gaurav.
Gaurav. And are you working as well?
Yeah.
Where are you working?
At Apple.
At Apple. Wow. Amazing. You guys are working for the companies that run the world. And are you chanting?
Not like Hare Krishna. I mean, mantra I do sometimes that, but we have a guru, so I have a separate thing. So
Okay. Do you think you could start chanting 1 round a day?
if I get time, but I usually do like kirtans and I chant that.
Okay. Good. Arun, Hare Krishna. You can come sit, Prabhu. Move up, everyone. Tata sadyo vimuchetad yadbhaviti swayam vayam. This is Srimad Bhagavatam. Has everyone heard of Srimad Bhagavatam before? Who spoke Srimad Bhagavatam?
Rupa Goswami. Sutta Goswami. Sukdev.
Shukadev Goswami and Sutta Goswami. And Vyasadeva.
Yes.
And Maitreya Rishi. And Narada Muni. And Prahlad Maharaj. And Dhruva Maharaj. And Nrsimhadev. And Krishna. And Uddhava. And 9 Yogendras. And Rishabhadev. So many people are speaking on Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam is considered to be the ultimate guiding principle of our life. Because everyone has to be guided by some particular axiom. Do you understand this word, axiom? It comes from Greek. We'll see from the Greek philosophers. Socrates, Aristotle, and Plato. Axiom means a self-evident truth which you have to base the function of your existence upon. So, if people do not have an axiom to guide their understanding in life, then what will happen? If you don't have a self-evident truth to make decisions upon, what will happen? Do you know what will happen?
I think people will live in anxiety and a constant state of useless inquiry, perhaps.
Useless inquiry, I like that. You'll actually become inert if you don't have an axiom to live by. There's something in Greek philosophy called infinite regress. Have you ever heard of infinite regress? It means you just continue to doubt. You doubt for the sake of doubting. And so for instance, I say that there's air outside, and you say, how do you know? And you say, well, because you're breathing. How do you know I'm breathing? You see what I mean? You understand? So if you don't have an axiom to guide your life, then you'll become inert. You won't be able to act, actually. In the Vedic conception, this is known as pramana. Everyone knows this term, pramana? It's the truths which we base our life upon. It's how we gather information. It's how we move forward in the decisions which we make. And the pramanams which are given are three. There's pratyaksha pramanam, there's anuman, and there's shabda praman. So shabda praman is considered to be revealed knowledge. Anuman is rational conclusion. And pratyaksha is direct sensual perception. Most people in this world are making conclusions on the basis of pratyaksha and anuman. And their inability to place faith in scriptures such as the Srimad Bhagavatam is due to accepting their sensual perception as an absolute truth in life. What is the error with making our sense perception an absolute truth? What are the errors in that? Do you know?
Because we feel whatever we sense, so we just think it's the truth.
What's imperfect about our sense perception? What are the errors of our sense perception?
Like in terms of senses in our body, you mean?
Yeah, what's imperfect about them? If I see a green tree during the day and then I look at it at night, what color will it be?
Dark, like black.
Black.
Yeah.
Is the tree actually black?
No.
But our senses are saying it's black, right?
Correct.
So is the tree green or black?
It's actually green.
It's actually green.
Yeah.
But if you make your senses an absolute truth, then which one is it, green or black? Right? If your sense perception is absolute truth, then is the tree green or black? You'll say it's black. If you say the tree is black when it's green, what does it mean?
It's like
It means you're a fool. Correct?
Yeah.
It means you're a fool. So, we have imperfect senses. If I try to convince you that the tree, or if I become convinced that the tree is black, even though it's green, it means I made a mistake. Correct?
Yeah.
And if I live my life with the mistakes which I'm making, accepting those mistakes to be true, it means I live in illusion. And if I try to convince you of my illusions, it means I have a propensity to cheat. Cheater. So this world, the Srimad Bhagavatam says that Natevidu Swarthagatim hi Vishnu Durashrayaye Bahir Artamaninas Adanta Yantir Upadniyamanas Tepish Artyam Urdami Bandha. That those whose life is Natevidu Swarthagatim hi Vishnu, those whose life is not being guided by the absolute truth, they are like blind people following other blind people into a dark well. What is that dark well? The dark well of birth, death, old age, and disease. In the meantime, people think that in order to escape the reality of birth, death, old age, and disease, they can make themselves comfortable. Nunam pramata kurutevi karma yam indriya priyatayaptanoti. Asadu manye partasvatova asada pikleshas ashadeva. In the meantime, while this body is still functioning, nunam pramata kurutevi karma. You engage in various vikarmas for priyat aptanoti, for the love of your sense indulgence. All for what? To maintain a body which is asada pikleshas ashadeha. A body which is full of miseries. What are the miseries of the body? Birth, death, old age, and disease. Janma mrityu jara avadi dukkha doshanu darshana. So people spend their entire life making the mistake that they are this body. They spend their entire life thinking that the achievements of this body, the achievements of my senses, is the absolute truth. The param gati of life is the gratification of my senses, the achievement of prestige and position, the accumulation of wealth. All of these things people take to be the ultimate conclusion of life. But the Srimad Bhagavatam is saying, Natevadu Swarthagatim hi Vishnu. Any goal which is devoid of a conception of the absolute truth is simply a goal which a blind person is following another blind person into a dark well. So therefore, we have to evaluate for ourselves the decisions which we're making. What pramanam are we basing it on? We can see that our senses are imperfect. And then even if we try to draw a conclusion in this world using our anuman, rational analysis. Rational analysis is based on, ultimately it's highly interrelated with prakyaksha. Correct? So if I say that 1 plus 1 equals 2, that's based on what? It's based on rationale, correct? Prakyaksha, it's based on 1 plus 1 would be 11. So, but in order for me to perceive one, in order for me to perceive another one, and to me to come to the conclusion of 2, it requires prakyaksha. So even with that rationale, I am basing it off an imperfect sense. So it's one thing that if you're trying to come to a conclusion of the goals and the opportunities of this world in relationship to the accumulation of wealth in relationship to the accumulation of appearing to be a very religious person, or in relationship to the fulfillment of our various conglomeration of desires which fill our mind at every moment. The Vedanta Sutra says that this world is known as ashabda, which means that if you're interested in the goals of this world, dharma, artha, kama, moksha, then your prakyaksha and anuman will work very well. But you should understand what is the nature of this world. You should understand that this body, according to the conclusions of the acharyas, and according to the direct perception of our mind and senses, is a world which is full of suffering and is full of defeat. Dukalayam ashashvatam. So if we're going to invest our faith in the conclusion of our mind and senses, we should be aware of where that is bringing us. Adanta yanter upaniyamanas. It's simply leading you into a dark well. So therefore, the Srimad Bhagavatam has been spoken. Because I have to remind myself of the verse real quick. Hare Krishna. Yaya samohito jivo atmanam tri gunatmakam paropi manyate nartam takritam cha vipadyate. Actually, categorically, we have nothing to do with this body. We have nothing to do with these senses. The Vedas say, asango yayam hi purushaha. That means you're not a man. That means you're not a Google employee. That means you're not living in San Jose. That means you're not from India. That means you're not Hindu. So who are you? Asango yayam hi purushaha. You have nothing to do with this world. Yaya samohito jivo atmanam trigunatmakam paropi manyate nartam takritam cha vipadyate. The living entity is originally an eternal, transcendental particle of consciousness coming from the Supreme Absolute Truth. Nityo nityanam chaitanas chaitananam ekabahunam yovidati kamam. That the living entity is a particle of consciousness coming from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, coming from Bhagavan. And this, being particles of consciousness, we're being maintained by the Supreme Consciousness. The difference between us is that the Supreme Consciousness is very great and we're very small. But the similarity is we are both eternal and we're eternally related with each other. Mama ishvam sojiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that these jivas, they are my parts and parcels. They are a part of me. But he also establishes Vata paratanamnyanya kinchin asti dhananjaya Mai sarvamidam protam shuddhi manigananiva. That there is no truth higher than me. And there's a clear difference between who is Krishna and who is the living entity. The living entity never becomes one with Krishna. Never becomes the same as Krishna. Some philosophers think that the living entity is like air inside of a pot. And if you break the pot, then the air becomes one with the sky. What's wrong with this analogy? Well, What's wrong with this analogy? You're not a pot. That's the problem with the analogy. Are you a pot? No, you're not a pot. So if you're going to have an analogy, there should be as many similarities given which can connect the analogy to the original substance. Furthermore, if the living entity is the supreme absolute truth, then how has the living entity fallen into illusion? And how is it that the living entity, when surrendering to Krishna, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Maya tatam idam sarvam jagat ad bhakti murtina, that this Maya is in my control, and Krishna says, Devihi yesha gunamai mama maya durataya mame vaye prapadyante maya metam tarantite. If you surrender onto me, this spell of the material energy will be lifted. So how is it that the living entity at any point could be one with the Supreme Absolute Truth? Could be one with Krishna completely. The living entity is the same in quality. It is not the same in quantity. The living entity in the material condition is forgetful of the relationship with Krishna. But Krishna describes himself in the Bhagavad Gita as Kavi, which means he who knows past, present, and future. Whereas the living entity doesn't know anything about his past, is completely bewildered about his present, and has no idea with what to do in the future. So the Srimad Bhagavatam has been spoken. Jivas anartho pasanam sakshat bhakti yogam sadhoksaje lokasya ajanato vidvams chakre satbhava samhitam. It's been spoken by those people who are ajanato, forgetful of Krishna. Forgetful of Krishna. Forgetful of the nature of who they are in relationship to Krishna. Forgetful that the greatest pleasure does not come from becoming artificially one, so-called, with Krishna, but it comes from lovingly offering oneself in service and surrender to Krishna. And how does this take place? Yasyam vai shriyamanayam Krishne padamapurishe bhakti upadyate pumsam soka moha payapaha. Through this process of hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, Yasyam vai shriyamanayam Krishne paramapurushe, one will come to a personal conception of Krishna. One will come to understand the nature of who Krishna is. One will come to the nature of understanding who they are as a servant of Krishna. And through hearing about how wonderful Krishna is, one will come to a point where bhakti upadyate pumsam, devotion, will naturally blossom in the heart. And then the effect of that devotion is soka, moha, vayapa. All of one's lamentation, illusion, and fear will be eradicated through the process of hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. So therefore, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, there's a beautiful verse which is indicating the ultimate process of self-realization. One second, I'm in the wrong place. Apanam samsatim goram yanama vivishobinam tata sadyo vimuche tat yad vabeti swayam bhayam. Living beings who are entangled in the complicated meshes of birth and death can be freed immediately by even unconsciously chanting the name of Krishna, which is feared by fear personified. So at the very beginning of the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is being spoken, what is the ultimate process for self-realization? Is it pranayama? Is it yoga? Is it jnana? The process of self-realization which is being given is yanama vivishobinam, the chanting of Krishna's names. And who is that meant for? Apanam samstatim, those who are entangled in the meshes of birth and death, this process of chanting the names of Krishna has been given. So the Srimad Bhagavatam is meant to be performed the Srimad Bhagavatam is meant to be studied in the midst of performing Nam Sankirtan. In the midst of chanting the names of Krishna, one will be able to understand the message of Srimad Bhagavatam. And by studying Srimad Bhagavatam, one will be able to understand the power of chanting the names of Krishna. So therefore, as the Srimad Bhagavatam goes on, you'll find verse after verse after verse which is emphasizing two processes of self-realization. It's emphasizing the process of Shravana, hearing, and the process of Kirtanam, chanting. So the whole basis of the Srimad Bhagavatam, the whole active principle in the process of hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, is to bring us to the point of having full faith and one-pointed attention in the process of hearing and chanting about Krishna. So therefore, everyone should read Srimad Bhagavatam on a daily basis. Everyone should relish the message of Srimad Bhagavatam. Everyone should own a Srimad Bhagavatam. Everyone should worship Srimad Bhagavatam in their home. And everyone should preach the message of Srimad Bhagavatam according to their capacity. Our teacher, His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, he used to say, read two things, speak two things. So it's not a matter of whether you're qualified or not. It's a matter of understanding the message, sincerely trying to apply it, and then repeating those messages to people who do not have an opportunity to be in contact with it. So how many of you own a Srimad Bhagavatam set? You're the only one that doesn't. Congratulations. Tonight you'll get a Srimad Bhagavatam set. Yeah. We have a small donation we ask for, but you should buy a Srimad Bhagavatam.
Yeah.
And simultaneously you should take full shelter of the chanting of Krishna's names. Hare Krishna. Any questions? What's going on? Oh,
this was just the worst one.
okay, thank you. Any questions or reflections? You have something to say? You had so much to say last time I came.
Yeah.
Now you're speechless.
Yeah, because then I started reading Bhagavatam. Before I had not started it.
So I just have one small reflection as I read the translation. So even by unconsciously chanting the holy name of Krishna,
Yeah,
we can come out of that birth and death cycle. right?
correct.
But I think it can be like while doing any other activities as well. It counts. Okay. It need not be like we should be always mindful of chanting. Is that?
Yeah, this is a form of logic which in Sanskrit is known as what to speak of. It's saying unconsciously because it's trying to point to conscious chanting actually. It's a form of logic. I'm forgetting the exact Sanskrit terminology, but it's a form of logic called what to speak of. So there's another verse in the Bhagavatam which says, Aho baki yamsta nakala kutam jighamsaya payaya up the sadvi labedigadim datru chitam tatoyam. I'm forgetting the last line. But this is, can someone find it? Aho baki yamsta nakala kutam jighamsaya payaya up yasadvi labedigadim datru chitam tatoyam. Kamvadayalum sharanam rajemam. This is saying, how can I take shelter of someone more merciful than Krishna, who gave shelter to a demoness like Putana, who approached him in the mood of a mother but wanted to kill him, and still she gave him deliverance. So what is this verse actually saying? What to speak of those who take shelter of Krishna like the mood of Mother Yashoda? Nayam sukapo bhagavan dehinam gopikasutaha jnaninam chatma bhutanam yata bhakti matam iha. This verse is saying, Nayam sukapo bhagavan. Who has been able to capture this Krishna? Who has been able to capture the absolute truth? Dehinam gopikasutaha. It's only been the residents of Vrindavan who has captured Krishna with the rope of love. Jnaninam chatma bhutanam. It hasn't been those who have been speculating on Brahma for all these lifetimes. In fact, Bhagavad Gita says, Bahunam janmanam ante gyanavanmam prapadyante vasudevam savarmiti sa mahatma sadurlabha. There are many, many births of speculating upon the nature of the absolute truth. One may fortunately come to the point of understanding Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojati. One may finally come to that understanding. Hare Krishna, welcome. Is this your first time here?
No.
Okay. Dehinam gopikasata. So what has been revealed? Yata bhakti matamiha. Krishna has been captured by the devotion. So what to speak of if even Putana has been lifted up in this way by Krishna's divine grace? What to speak of others? What to speak of others who have taken shelter of Krishna wholeheartedly? So in the same way, if living beings who are entangled in the complicated meshes of birth and death can be immediately freed by even unconsciously chanting the holy name of Krishna, which is feared by fear personified, what to speak of those who consciously take shelter of the chanting of Krishna's name? The Chaitanya Charitamrita, which is a requirement for anyone who is studying the Srimad Bhagavatam to understand, says, Taramadye Sarva Shreshta Nama Sankirtan Niraparada Namalai Paya Premadam. That of all the limbs of devotional service, this chanting of Krishna's names is considered the best. And if it's performed without offense, which means it's being consciously done in a mood of surrender, then it can award one the treasure of love for Krishna. So if unconsciously chanting can free one from the complicated meshes of birth and death, what to speak of chanting consciously? So therefore we have to make it a daily habit to chant Krishna's names. And for those who are coming from the land of Bharat, Bharata Bhumite Hoila Manasu Janmayar Janmasartha Karikara Para Upakar. You all have a duty to not only chant a certain number of names, but you have to chant a minimum of 16 names. 16 Maha Mantras on beats, on a daily basis. It's required. Why? Because all of you have a responsibility to be representatives of the Srimad Bhagavatam, to be representatives of the message of Bhagavad Gita, and give this message to people who are suffering. Give this message to people who are devoid of a Vedic civilization, who are devoid of a dharmic background. To give them the opportunity to chant this holy name, which is able to free those who are entangled in such a circumstance. Ahobata swapata togari yanya jivagre vartate namatubhyam tapusta puste juhuvushnasta arya nabrahmatura nama grinanti yete. If you can just get one person to chant the names of Krishna, then that person becomes qualified to engage in all sorts of Vedic rites simply through the process of that chanting Krishna's names. So all of you have been born in the land of Bharat, so therefore it is your duty to take up this mission of Srimad Bhagavatam and give it to other people. I've been born in a Western background and I'm speaking to all of you. You should be speaking to me. You should be preaching to me. You should be preaching to people like me. You should be sharing this message in every town and village in the Bay Area, every town and village in the United States, every town and village in the entire world. Because you've taken birth in the land of Bharat, it is your duty to take up the message of Bhagavad Dharma and share it with those who are suffering. Give them an opportunity to chant Krishna's names. So what to speak of a person like me who grew up with no background in this? What could you do? I'm a very small, insignificant person, but all of you are in a position to do something amazing for the world if you just accept this opportunity which is being given. So the first step is getting Srimad Bhagavatam and making a plan in coordination with Ram to come to chanting 16 rounds within the next year. Right, Ram?
Yes, bro.
Prabhu?
I really like the beginning when you think the stayed with me was the Praman Prataksha, which you give the reference. Every time when you think from the scriptures or from guidance from, then it's easier to see through it, and life becomes easier.
Correct. Vedyam vasana atra vasyasi vidam tapa trayomulanam. If one sees the world through the lens of the Srimad Bhagavatam, one is given the wherewithal to distinguish reality from illusion, to get free from the complicated meshes of birth and death, to free themselves. Adinath Krishna Prabhu, is it time to stop? Okay, thank you. He keeps me together, otherwise I would probably just evaporate into the air. But you're keeping me together, Prabhu. Yes.
So even when you're reading from scriptures, you are still absorbing it through your senses, right? Like it's still filtered. What you read still gets filtered to your own senses, right? You cannot get rid of your sensual person. I mean, you're viewing the words through your eyes. So it's how do you?
The difference is what is the quality of the sense object. Vipataye Bhagavata Atmana Satam Katamrita Shravana Putesutam Vritam. The message of the Srimad Bhagavatam is Katamritam. It's a completely transcendental vibration. And this vibration is Tadbhag Visargoda Natata Viplava. It has the ability to redirect our misdirected consciousness. So although our senses may be engaging with a sense object such as sound, the quality of that sound is different. The quality of that sound is equivalent to the nature of who we are as a soul. It's not equivalent to who we are as a body. If you listen to a song by, help me out, Ram, what's some famous person that everyone knows in India?
Yeah.
Who?
Yeah,
Who?
You're asking about any musician or singer? Yeah, Rahman.
You know who that is? Yeah, it's not the same quality as that. I was gonna say Britney Spears, but I don't know if maybe only you and me would be able to relate with that. So it's a different quality of vibration. And because it's a different quality, what is that quality? Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita that there's two energies. There's a divine energy, which is spiritual, and there's a material energy. So the message of Srimad Bhagavatam is of the same quality as the living entity on the spiritual platform. Whereas the vibration which one may hear from, not you, but
I know.
it's a different quality. It's dealing with the experience of the mind, body, and senses. The Srimad Bhagavatam is not interested with speaking with you as a body. It's speaking it to you as a soul. And it's trying to connect with you on that level to break through the fog of our material consciousness. Kvechit kevalaya bhaktya vasudeva parayanaha. Agham durvanti karshena niharan iva bhaskara. Srimad Bhagavatam says that through this process of hearing Srimad, of performing Bhakti Yoga, the seeds of our material consciousness are burned at the root. If I burn grass in a field, that grass will come back, correct? But if I pull it at the root, if I burn it at the root, it won't ever return. It's completely removed forever. So in the same way, the process of devotional service, the propensity for material life, the propensity for the bodily platform is completely eradicated by the process which is given in the Srimad Bhagavatam. And that acts like a bright sun which clears the fog in the morning. So as soon as you see the sun rising, just by the slight appearance of the sun, the fog begins to disperse. And as the day goes on, when it's at the zenith in the sky, there's no more fog. Niharam iva bhaskara. It completely destroys the influence of the fog. So when you come in contact with a message which is non-different from who you are on the spiritual plane, it eradicates the fog of our material consciousness and brings us to our original spiritual position. Does that answer your question? Okay. I think we should stop here. Hare Krishna. Krishna Paraya Krishna